Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
All right, Superman. Let's get into it. I want to preface this video with a couple of things. Number one, although I would consider myself to be a DC fan in general, I'm not a hardcore Superman fan. I haven't read any comics that have come out in like the last 10 years. And when I did read DC, it was mostly Batman and Justice League, a little bit of the Flash here or there, and then the event comics. But as far as like solo Superman runs, very, very few comics have I read, okay? As far as past iterations of the character, my favorite interpretation of Superman and the DC universe in general is the, mid to late 90s Justice League Unlimited, Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, the whole Bruce Timm-verse. That's still to this day my favorite DC universe. And as far as the past Superman movies go, I love the first two Christopher Reeve Superman movies, not so much 3 and 4. Don't really care for Superman Returns. I love Man of Steel. I really do. I love Henry Cavill as Superman. And then BVS and Justice League, I think, have their issues, but they're okay enough for me. So, with that all out of the way, I do want to say another thing right before I get into this, is that I am going to be talking about and judging this Superman movie, Superman 2025, the James Gunn Superman, just on its own merits. I am not going to compare and contrast to previous iterations. I only give you the setup so you know where I'm coming from as a DC fan in my past history, the ones I like, the ones I don't like, my favorites, just so you can get an understanding of the kind of Superman stuff that I do like. But that being said, let's get into this, because this movie has already become extremely controversial for many, many different reasons, and there's a lot weighing on its shoulders because this is meant to be the first movie in the new movie DC universe moving forward, all helmed by James Gunn, who did also write and direct this movie. And I am also a James Gunn fan, I would say. I mean, I love all of his old stuff. I love his early stuff when he was working for Troma. Like, he wrote Troma's Tromeo and Juliet. He shows up in a few Troma movies. I love Slither. I love Super. I love all the movies he did before Marvel the best, and still do. Those are still my two favorite James Gunn movies, are Slither and Super. But when the first trailers and clips of this Superman movie started coming out, there was something about it that really rubbed me the wrong way. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I mean, sure, I didn't really like the Superman suit that they went with, but that's not a huge deal in my opinion. It's going to look better in the movie, and it does look better in the movie than it does in the trailers and clips and promos and stuff. But there was something about the way that the trailers looked. I don't know if they were trying too heavy to overcorrect from previous incarnations, but there was something about the brightness of it, the heavy contrast, the way that everything was just a bright blue sky and a big open landscape. Something about the CGI and the digital effects in the trailers just did not look good to me, and I was very, very nervous. And now that I have seen the film, was I right to be nervous? I would say a little bit. Not to keep you in suspense any longer, I would say overall I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I think it was very entertaining, but I do have a lot of issues with it. But I'm going to start with the positives. So on the positive side for Superman 2025, I will say this. I really do like David Cornsweet as Superman, as Clark Kent. I think he does a fantastic job that the trailers did not give him enough credit for. At least I didn't when I watched the trailers. I think that this guy really does carry this movie. He's a very good leading man. And perhaps like Superman should, he felt like somebody that you want to hang around with. He felt like somebody that you wanted to watch every time he wasn't on screen, which he's on screen for the majority of this movie, which I really liked. You're always waiting for him to come back. You're like, I need him here for kind of the support of what's going to happen next. And that kind of feels like Superman. I think that he got his mannerisms down very well. I think that the way that he was able to convey the emotion and the dialogue that they gave him, I think he did all of that great. I liked his chemistry with Lois Lane in this movie. She's also really good in it. So he was a great leading man. I think if you're casting Superman and that's going to be the driving focal point of your movie, he did a fantastic job. I also like that Superman is in the suit for about 90% of the movie. There's actually very, very little of this movie where he's Clark Kent. The majority of this movie, he is Superman. And I'd say he wears the suit probably as often as Batman does in The Batman, where it's just he's Superman pretty much the entire movie. The other actors, I think they did good for the material that they had. Nicholas Holtz, he's a believable dude that's just very pissed off, enraged, and hating Superman and wanting to do everything that he can to make his life as miserable as possible, and he has all of the money and resources to do so. Some of his stuff goes a little crazy of what he can do, what he's already capable of when this movie starts, but, he does a great job filling in that part too. I think the standout to me is that there's kind of they call it the Justice Gang, where it's three characters. It's Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific. They're kind of like the little superhero team of this movie. And they're all fine. I mean, obviously you can tell just from the way he looks and the fact that they casted Nathan Fillion, who I've been a fan of ever since, Firefly, and he shows up in the final season of Buffy. Like, I've always been a fan of him. But he's very much exactly how you think he's going to be. Like, from what the trailers portray him as, that is just his character. He's a douchey comic relief guy. That's about it. Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl, I think she's a wonderful actress, but she doesn't really have much to do here. She's just kind of there to roll her eyes at Nathan Fillion's character. But the one that stands out is Mr. Terrific. He has some of the best moments of the entire movie. He gets a great action sequence where you get to see him using all of his spheres. And I love how they portray his intelligence, where he doesn't show off, but every time somebody else says something or suggests something, he gets super annoyed. It's like, why are you even suggesting? Like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm super smart. I got this. Like, I just love every time he's paired up with another character and they, say something to him and he's just like, no, that's not. It's like when I talk to my friend that's in tech. He's an IT guy. He helped me build this PC. And by help me, I mean he did pretty much everything while trying to explain to me how he did it. And I watched and smiled and nodded. It just reminded me of somebody that they know exactly what they're doing. They know how the technology works, and nobody else around them does. And they're just kind of like, all right, well, just shut up and let me fix this. And the other thing that I really liked about it is that this movie definitely does take place in a fantasy world. And that is something that I've been waiting for in DC for a long time. I love the grounded, realistic approach of the Nolan Batman movies, of course. But the thing that always bummed me out about Batman is that every single movie sort of began to take that same approach, where it was like bringing us back to a real world setting in which Batman would have to exist by our rules of physics and our rules of technology and so on and so forth. I like the idea that this movie is very much in a fantasy world. There is technology here that just would not be a thing, at least that the common public would be aware of in our real world. But no, I mean, there's like dimensional portals and all of Mr. Terrific's technology and the spheres and all the stuff that Lex Luthor can do. And then everything turns into a flying spaceship. It's just there's so many different pieces of technology here, but I do like this idea because it allows more things to be included within this universe. It's this is a universe where you could have a Batman fight a Clayface. I know that they're going to make a Clayface movie or whatever, which is a weird choice. But this is a movie where a Clayface could exist. This is a movie where a mutant could exist, a monster, a kaiju, super advanced technology, flying ships all over the place. Just giant dimensional gateways that can rip a city apart, giant weird floating amoebas from another dimension. This is a comic book world where anything can happen, and the potential of that, not having to have it take place in New York City or somewhere that we recognize. This is DC, this is Gotham. There's other countries that don't exist, and yeah, they're references and allusions to stuff that does exist in our real world. But here we just have an unlimited amount of opportunity to do a lot of other things, which that is something that I am very excited for moving forward in this new DC universe. But having said all that, I do have quite a lot of negatives, and I didn't go into this movie to hate it. I didn't go into it to love it. I went in as neutral as possible, just wanting a good DC Superman movie, and I do think it's a good movie. I think it's good. I think it's entertaining. I think it's fun. I think if you take a family to, if you have kids, this is a great, fun popcorn summer movie to take them to for sure. But just as somebody that reviews movies, there are things in this film that really bothered me and took me out of it. As much as I wanted to just suspend my disbelief as much as possible, there are just some things that I couldn't. I think number one for me is the dialogue and the script. The storyline itself, I don't want to spoil that yet. I'll talk about spoilers a little bit later in the video, but there's not really much to spoil. It's in the trailers. There's this war that was going to break out in a different country, and Superman went and stopped it, and now he's a point of controversy on whether or not he should have been able to do that, while Lex Luthor is scheming to take him down and destroy him and destroy his life, and that's about it. There's some social commentary there, not nearly as much as I think people are making it out to be, but the crux of the movie is basically like how Superman responds to everyone attacking him and coming at him and wanting to bring him down a peg, while he still tries to remain true and helpful and kind and all of that stuff. And that works fine. But when it comes to the dialogue, all of the characters in this movie, good or bad, speak so bluntly and directly about what their motivations are, what they're thinking, and what they're feeling. Like, the movie never gives you a chance to think about what a character is thinking or think about what a character is going to do. Like, when Lex Luthor is entering the Fortress of Solitude, he's explaining verbatim exactly what he's doing. There's also other moments towards the end of the film where there's more of a confrontation between Superman and Lex Luthor, and he's just bluntly saying I hate you because of this and that and this is what I want to do and this is what I want to accomplish. And then Superman comes back and says I'm this and I'm that and this is what I think and this is what I want to do. And every character is like that. Every character except for Mr. Terrific, who's always just rolling his eyes at everybody else, just straight up just says everything they're thinking constantly, just straight out to the audience, so that there's no question whatsoever what any character's motivation is, what any character is doing. You don't get a chance to think about it. They just tell you the whole movie. And I guess you could say it's spoon feeding the audience. I think that's kind of what it is, where it's just here, you don't got to think about what the characters are doing. We're just going to tell you every step of the way. We're going to hold your hand through the process. It's going to be okay. And as somebody that loves good dialogue and loves getting into the heads of characters and thinking about why they make the choices that they make, everything here is just so blunt and so there's no room for nuance anywhere in this movie. And for some people, that won't be a problem. Just for me, it was frustrating because I just hate when characters have to tell me every single thing that they're thinking instead of letting me figure it out or me interpret what they're doing. This also was a negative for me, is that the pacing of this movie is very, very quick. James Gunn's talked about it in interviews and stuff. You may or may not know, they don't do any kind of origin story for Superman in this movie. The movie opens right in the middle of this big event that's happening. About 5 minutes into the movie, you're already into an action sequence with Superman. And I didn't mind that they didn't do an origin story, but it never really lets up from that. And I think the problem that it gave me was that it didn't have a moment that truly made me feel triumphant. It didn't have a moment that made me want to cheer. It didn't have this big swelling build up to some momentous occasion, some huge set piece, some, great larger than life epic scene. Never really happened. It was just sort of paced out in a way where every couple of minutes there was another action scene, throw a couple emotional moments in here, another action scene, but there wasn't really a moment that just made me I don't know, get to the edge of my seat and just feel that sense of power and triumph and accomplishment. There wasn't a moment that I'm gonna remember. There wasn't a singular scene that I'm gonna remember for years to come. I'm gonna remember bits and pieces of this movie, I'm going to remember the performances, but there's no scene that I'm like, that is the scene. That is the moment. I didn't feel that here. And again, that's not to say that the scenes weren't good or fun or entertaining. They certainly were, but there wasn't one singular scene that stood out to me to be like, that is the Superman moment. The closest, I guess I don't want to spoil it, but like, it just didn't hit that peak for me. I just wanted a bigger scene, a bigger moment to fully cement this Superman. On top of that, I mean, there's other little things, like there's a lot of humor in this movie that doesn't work for me, and the theater I saw it with, I don't know if it was just a bad crowd or something, but almost nobody laughed in the whole theater I was in. Like, there was a couple moments that made me chuckle a little bit. Again, the Mr. Terrific scenes. But besides that, a lot of the humor in this movie just falls flat. They do this whole ongoing joke with Jimmy Olsen. It's okay. And then there's just other little comments and little quips here and there that it just didn't work for me personally. Now, I have two other major gripes, but they are definitely spoilers, so I will have to hold off for that. My overall thoughts are, yes, I think this movie is entertaining. I do think it's fun, and I think that there is a lot of potential here for where DC can go moving forward. And yes, David Cornsweet has won me over. I do like him as Superman. So there's enough in here that I do like, that I do enjoy. I would give it a positive rating. However, I'm not going to find the movie to be very rewatchable. This is probably a one and done for me, or if I do watch it, you know, it's like a rainy Wednesday afternoon watch. It's not like something I'm going to sit down and be like, oh my God, like I can't wait to watch this again. Like, I don't have that sense of urgency in my mind. I was very entertained for 2 hours, but I don't have I can't wait till it comes out on Blu-ray moment. You know, I'm not feeling that. But in this world of the internet, people feel like you can only be black and white about particular movies. You can only think it's a masterpiece, or you can only think it's trash. There's no room for in between. Well, that's not what you get here. There's a lot of in between for me. But I'm going to move into spoilers next because I want to talk about my two other gripes of the film. So if you guys only watch it up to this point, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Give it a like and comment to help it out in the algorithm. And then tell me your thoughts about Superman down below, what you thought of it. But be civil in the comments, guys. Please, please. It's at the end of the day, it's just a fucking movie. But all right, so let me get into spoilers. This is spoilers now. I'm going to talk about my other two gripes. So actually, I lied. I have three major gripes, but let's start with the big one. The big one is how they handled Superman's biological parents and Jor-El. So there's this thing that happens in the movie where basically Superman at the Fortress of Solitude has a message from his parents, but he doesn't know how to translate the entire thing. All he knows is the translation of the part where they say they love him. And it's a very important moment because he uses that video for a sense of comfort and also as motivation to do what he does, to do the right thing. Well, when Lex comes into the Fortress of Solitude and finds the video, he's able to translate it, and apparently the entire message is telling Superman to go to Earth, basically not necessarily enslave them, but become their leader and impregnate a bunch of women, creating a harem and building Krypton back from the ground up. Which is, at least from any Superman lore that I know, the polar opposite of what Jor-El has ever wanted for Kal-El. Now, when they first introduced this element into the movie, I was thinking, oh, this is obviously just a setup by Lex Luthor to make Superman look terrible in the public eye, which is exactly the way that it's presented. Obviously, that's not what Jor-El really said. That's what Lex is telling people Jor-El said to make people afraid of Superman. But they never correct this. They never go back at any point and say that it was just an evil plan from Lex. Like, even Mr. Terrific has a line where he's like, I know the translators, yada, yada, they would never lie about this, somehow, whatever. But then it's like, okay, wait, so you're changing this idea that they sent Kal-El away to save him and hopes that he does something good somewhere else to, like, no, you become the ruler of Earth and impregnate a bunch of women and create new Kryptonians. Again, like I said, I don't want to compare and contrast to previous versions, but like every other Jor-El has been more of like an honorable scientist kind of character. And so when they never revealed that that was a prank by Lex Luthor, it just seemed completely out of left field. And it was to lead Superman to be like, no, my real parents are my parents on Earth kind of thing. Like, it doesn't matter your biological parents. It matters how you were raised, which, yeah, I agree with the sentiment, but like Jor-El and Pa Kent are both good influences for Superman. So like, it just seemed like so out of left field. And, and for the whole movie, I was waiting for the reveal that it wasn't true, but it never came. My other negative comes with the character Metamorpho. Now, there's not anything wrong about him in the movie. I just felt like he was very unnecessary. Like, he's there because he can turn his body into different elements, and he turns himself into kryptonite to keep Superman weak when Lex locks him up. But he just seemed very inconsequential. Like, if Superman, if they just had kryptonite there, as opposed to having a character that could turn himself into kryptonite. And I know James Gunn loves his cute little characters, Baby Groot and Crypto and all that, and they give Metamorpho a baby that Superman is like, I'll help you save your baby if you let me out of here. And it's just this weird, creepy, squishy little green, Baby Yoda knockoff thing. And it's like, I don't know, none of that stuff worked for me. None of the Metamorpho stuff worked for me. Was not a fan of it. And when it comes to Superman fighting other characters, he does, but I think there was a significant lack of weight and emotional stakes with the final villain, which was Ultraman, which was turned out to be a clone of Superman, because this Ultraman, Superman clone, didn't have any kind of personality or motivation for himself. It was pretty much just a blank robotic slate that Lex Luthor could control. So when Superman is fighting the only other character the entire film that could possibly put up any resistance to him, everyone else he takes out immediately. Like, he has a little bit of trouble with the kaiju, but not much. He takes out all the guards and robots super easily. So the only character that he can really put up a threat against him really was Lex Luthor's two different characters. One with all this nanotechnology that I never think that stuff looks good on screen when they do nanotech stuff. But the other was Ultraman, who turns out to be a Superman clone. And it's like, okay, this is the only character of the entire movie that can put up a fight and actually match Superman, but the character is not a character. It's just this like blank clone with no personality, no motivation, no idea. I don't even know how conscious and aware he really is of himself. Lex tells him, hey, even Lex Luthor is basically like telling him the exact fighting moves to use the whole fight. So it's not even like Ultraman himself is doing the fighting, really, like making his own choices. He's just obeying Lex. Also, Ultraman in the comics, which I have read, some Ultraman stuff, completely different character. It's a Superman from a parallel universe, yada, yada. Anyways, that's not the Ultraman in this movie. And so I guess I was just bummed out during the final fight because I didn't care about what Superman... Like, it's really like he's fighting Lex Luthor, but obviously Lex isn't strong enough, so we got to have a character that's strong enough while Lex just talks for him. And that just bummed me out. I didn't feel the weight that I wanted to between the fight between Superman and Ultraman, because Ultraman didn't feel like a character. He was really just a vessel for Lex Luthor to speak through. But if they're going to do that, why didn't they just do Lex Luthor in the mech suit? Now, that's a very famous thing from the comics and the animated series, where you see Lex Luthor suits up so that he can, give himself some more power and fight some metahumans to be on their level a little bit more. There's actually a comic run that I did read that I love that's called Forever Evil, where Lex Luthor basically leads a team of supervillains to fight and take down Ultraman. And in the comics, it's awesome. And so if they were just going to do something like that, where Lex is the one in the control anyways, why didn't they give Lex the suit? And this is definitely, like I was talking about earlier in the review, this is definitely a fantasy world where a whole bunch of ridiculous technology exists that wouldn't exist in our world. So he could have done it. Like, it would have been the equivalent to like the Iron Man suit from Marvel. So like, it could have totally been done, but instead they just kept him in an office while he spoke through like a speaker on Ultraman's chest, instead of being there doing it himself, which, if Lex is the, final boss of this movie, and he's going to be doing this kind of stuff anyways, I'm surprised that he wouldn't want to have the satisfaction with the way that they portray him in the movie of taking down Superman firsthand. All that to say, I didn't like Ultraman. I thought that character sucked because it wasn't even a character. But yeah, that'll about do it for my gripes. I'm sorry for ranting and raving, but there's just some things about this movie that rubbed me the wrong way. But again, having said all that, I do think the movie is fun. I do think it's entertaining. I do think it's a good summer movie to go watch. And it does get me excited for the potential of what could happen in the DC universe. But there you go, guys. That is my review of Superman 2025, James Gunn Superman. I don't know what we're calling it officially, but that's what I think. So I got some positives, got some negatives. You guys let me know what you think down in the comments below. And look, I know this is a divisive movie and people are arguing about it. All I ask is that you remain respectful in the comments. You can definitely have debates and discussion, but try to keep things more on the positive end. And just remember, at the end of the day, it's only a movie. And if you like other Superman stuff better, all of that is available to watch. I rewatch the animated series all the time, and that's my go-to Superman. But whatever your Superman is, that's fine. That's valid. There's no wrong version. It's whatever you enjoy and that you think personally. I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is to make your own opinion. You know, don't listen to Rotten Tomatoes. Don't listen to other reviewers. You know, watch reviews for fun and because you like the channel, but make up your own opinion at the end of the day. Don't let Twitter or YouTube or anybody else make it for you. I'll end on that note. Thanks for watching, guys.